Hey, good evening. Tonight's Bible study comes from Matthew chapter 16. It's going to be short tonight. It's verses 1 through 4. And this is when the Sadducees and the Pharisees was looking for a sign. The Pharisees and the Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. He replied, "When evening comes, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Judah." Jesus then left them and went away. Well, of course, we got the Pharisees and the Sadducees doing what they do, and if you could think back to just even in Matthew 3 and 7, when the Sadducees and the Pharisees came up to Jesus, chapter 3 rather, 3:7, it says, "But when he saw the many of the Pharisees and the Sadducees coming to the baptism, he said to them, 'You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come?'" Well, what they were doing in this first verse was they were trying to tempt the Lord. They was going up to him and to see evidence that he was the Messiah. They were trying to get him to show that he was the Messiah. But they wanted to see him do something and fail at it truthfully, so that they could and might and will betray him and then think they would ruin him. But Jesus is slick because he tells them right after that, when they come up to him, the Pharisees and Sadducees came up to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven. And he didn't. Nope. He gave them words so they would know. And he replied, "When evening comes, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red." Well, he started relating to him. And he tells them that some miraculous appearance in the sky, and he just told them about some of the things that they had done. But such appearances had been given by the prophets. Prophets have been giving them out. And they supposed if he was the Messiah that these miracles would not just be here on earth, but all over. They thought he would be able to do this. But he was able to give some signal miracle from heaven. If you remember, Samuel causes the thunder, Isaiah caused a shadow to go back 10 degrees on the dial of Ahaz, and that was in Isaiah 38 and 8. And Moses had sent manna from heaven, if you remember Exodus 16:4, and in John 6:31. But it is proper to say that though Christ did not choose then to show them this work, this miracle that they were asking for, these wonders, he did know and did tell them far more stupendous signs from heaven than these were going to be exhibited at his death. And he speaks to that, and we'll get to that. And you can see, but he replied to them, "When it is evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, there will be a storm today, for the sky is red and threatening. Do you know how to discern the appearance of the sky, but cannot discern the signs of the times?" And there are certain indications by what we see with the weather. We know that. We can look in the sky and see if it's cloudy, or if it's going to rain, or if it's too dark, or even if it's going to snow sometimes. But they had sufficient indications on which you should judge concerning me in these times, meaning Jesus. His miracles, they didn't take him in. The state of affairs in Judea, they didn't take it in. These were indications by which you should have judged Jesus, but you couldn't see this. You didn't discern that. You didn't notice the deeds. Is red. When he answered, is red. Almost all nations have observed this as an indication of fair weather. We already know that. In the morning, the sky is red and lowering. That is, there are threatening clouds. Things were happening in the sky. And this is Judea. This was a sign of a tempest. In other places, however, the signs of the storm may be different. The face of the sky was the appearance of the sky. But my favorite part is in Matthew 16:4 when he says, a wicked and adulterous generation. If you look at Matthew 12:38 through 40, it says, then some of the scribes and Pharisees said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, an evil, adulterous generation craves for a sign, and yet no sign will be given to it but the sign of Jonah the prophet. What was Jonah in the belly? For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the sea monster, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And then if you look at Mark 8:12, he says, sighing deeply in his spirit, he said, why does this generation seek for a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation. And he had signed, that was in his spirit. He did not say this without feeling either. I mean, this was just, how can I say it? This persistence of the Sadducees and Pharisees to keep trying to prove that he wasn't who he said he was, and then asking for these signs when he had been doing all these signs. So now I'm going to show you on my death because you didn't believe me while you could see me and I'm walking around and I'm doing all these things. No, that wasn't good enough for you. I'm doing miracles. I'm feeding people. I'm taking care of business. Nope, that wasn't good enough for you. So now you're really going to see my power. But you won't even see it then because you still won't recognize me. But just as Jonah was in the belly of the beast for 3 days and 3 nights, I will be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And when I rise, you will see that I've defeated hell. I have power over death. It no longer has a sting. I am who I said I am. I will ascend into heaven. I will come back and walk amongst thee. I am the Messiah. Everything that was prophesied about me is true and has been proven. And all of you hypocrites that claim to be scribes and teachers of my word, you are liars because you couldn't recognize the one that you so-called speak of when he was amongst you. And this really was a wicked situation because, as you realize, even before Jesus was crucified, it was said, I find no fault with him. I find no fault with him, but I am gonna stand by and watch him be crucified. We find no fault with him, but he is guilty. We would rather let a murderer go than to let a man who ain't done nothing but loved on people, healed people, fed people, washed feet for people. He just did everything, and we could not see it. They could not see it. So Jesus simply tells them, hey, if you really want to see a sign from the Lord like you asked for, when you said the Pharisees and Sadducees came to Jesus and tested him by asking him to show them a sign from heaven, well, in a way he did show them a sign from heaven, but he really showed them the sign from the earth because he went into it and came out of it, and then he rose. And his power was on display. But his power had always been on display, and it was truly his love for us and his faith and dedication to us in the Father. And you didn't see it. But when you asked for a sign, he gave you the sign. He rose on the 3rd day. And now, at this time, he is seated at the right hand of the Father. So, know who you see. Know who you hear. Their deeds will speak volumes. And Jesus' deeds had to be deafening because he was doing everything. And he continues to do everything. Amen.